Final session for Enlighten Europe Online. My name is Candace Hubner, and I'm the IALD Administrative Coordinator. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some general housekeeping notes. If you have any technical issues, please put them in the chat function, and an IALD staff member will respond to you privately in chat. Also, this session will be recorded and available after the conference. Your microphones will be muted, and we ask you turn your cameras off for the beginning of this session. And now, I'd like to turn the session over to the IALD President, Douglas Leonard.
Thank you. We have come to the closing session of our mini Enlighten Europe online event. And I'd like to thank all our sponsors again for their support. Our platinum sponsor, Linea Light Group, our gold sponsors, Coolidge and Eldolite, and our silver sponsor, Neri. And now, I'd like to introduce our closing speakers for what inspires you and how is it different now than when you first started lighting design. The speakers are Gustavo Avilés, Mônica Lobo, and Andreas Schulz. Our first speaker, Gustavo Avilés, has been focused on light in architecture since 1984. His work achieves a wide variety of applications from residential to historical buildings, to lighting master plans, to artistic installations, and more. Gustavo is a professional member of the IALD and 2 times member of the IALD Board of Directors and the IALD Education Trust. He is also a co-member of the Tantaden Lighting Detectives, also known as TNT. Gustavo represents an enthusiastic, academic, professional, and creative attitude in the international lighting community.
Hello, my name is Gustavo Avilés. I am an architect. I am from Mexico. The question of what inspires me it's a very close question that I have been always been very near of it. Inspiration for me is just like breathing, you know. It's something that you can inspire and then also expire. You know? So it's a movement that comes in and then goes somehow out. Related to the way I have been inspired working with light, it's not that I remember, it's something that I still do. It's based more in observation. It's more related to the way how we can open our eyes and try to find that deep meaning in the things that surround us, surrounds me. So it takes a little bit of exercise to understand light or try to understand it. It doesn't come to us as easy as it. You need to do a little bit of practice, be more patient, slow down more, and try to get inside not only what we see, but what we can feel about what we see, and then understand materials and be very close related to the elements of nature, to the elements of technology, and also look into the face of the other and understand the texture of the skin, the color of their eyes, and then try to listen. Very important to understand how to listen. Be aware of sounds and smells and everything that we can touch or even see. So lighting design in this way, it's an inspiration more related to life. And that's what inspires me and has been inspiring me for now more than 35 years, whatever that means, of working professionally with light. So in this way, every moment I am looking more to be aware of what's surrounding me and to whom I'm speaking. The tools I use to do my lighting design are still my pencil, my notebook, and also very close to my eraser, because it's good to make corrections and to repeat. So the way doing the sketch is a way of understanding and putting my hand very near my head and with my heart in the middle. So that's what I try to do with when I sketch, and I do it so much frequently. In my lighting process, I don't use the computers. I am faster than a computer with my pencil. I have been practicing it and also making tests how fast lighting design can be, even more than a computer tool. But also basic, and based in curiosity about the basic elements of light in architecture. The window, the door, the floor. These elements are like moving elements that can keep you the relation between inside and outside. So it's so great to understand these basic elements. So sketching and understanding the basic elements of architecture is so important. And as well, it's very important also to remember and to be close to those, let's say, elements or people that have been close to me, to us, when we understand more. So I can remember very much in my daily work, my masters, my friends, like Piero Castiglioni from Milan, Italy, who taught me also how to be very creative and also have this good and very deep sense of humor. Or speaking with Dieter Bartenbach from Austria, my close friend, who taught me how to understand daylight and how to be related with this tremendous, powerful element that's daylight, as well nightlight. But I also remember being very clear of Johannes Dinneweer, looking at the sky in his laboratory and understanding lighting as the technology, how to make it possible to do lighting elements with lenses and light itself. But also to remember Mark Kruger, my dear close friend from New York, excellent and very creative friend, which taught me how to write and use the language and the camera. And so in these elements and with these friends, and very especially Howard Brownstone, who taught me how to be relaxed and understand light as a language. And he told me once that lighting design is a domestic job, and usually housewives can do it better than us, because they understand perfectly where to turn on or when to turn off a light. And they have the basic elements of energy saving in themselves. So that's what I think now is different, a little bit different, when I see that lighting design has become so cosmetic and so complex and so not necessary to be more rich, but to be more complicated, more technology, more photometrics, more standards, more elements that are more numerical or technical. which I think they are not so close of light, because they speak more of a, let's say, energy saving. What kind of energy you can save if you don't have it? And we are speaking about watts as a unit, but I have never seen a watt. I have never seen a watt, a volt, an ampere. They are not visible elements. So I think that lighting design now has become more, let's say, unnecessarily complicated. We can recall basic cultures, and we can remember and try to incorporate all these original meanings of light related now with all this great technology. But be aware not to use only the computer, because it's just a very flat element, has no texture, has no deepness. We cannot do lighting design with the computer. We have to understand, to open our eyes and try to listen and try to speak. And that's the way I think is a relation between the way I used to do it, that still I do, and the way it's done that now. No? And so that's a good possibility to melt it. So I really appreciate very much you can have some attention in what I'm saying. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustavo. Our next speaker, Mônica Lobo, graduated as an architect and urban planner and has been working with architectural lighting since 1997, when she founded IALD Studio in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Her work features in many local and international publications, and she has won a number of awards at home and abroad. Mônica is one of the founders of the Brazilian Lighting Association, ASBAI, and is a professional member of the IALD and the CLD.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here at this special Enlighten 2020. I will share with you some thoughts about what inspires me when working with lighting. I'm an architect who have rediscovered architecture through light. On the beginning of my practice, observing and revealing architecture through light was my inspiration. To be invisible and work with light like it is skin on surface was my goal. Then I start to realize that light could add meaning to the space, that we can reveal the space with an intention. To embrace, to inspire, to guide, even to intrigue or communicate. And in recent years, what inspires me are people. Every project has a story to tell, and the people involved on all aspects of the project, users, architects, clients, engineers, managers, my team, and myself, and all our desires and needs coming together gracefully is what fulfills me. So I start thinking on revealing the built environment through light, and I have realized that I'm interested on people that live on this built environment, having the certainty that every project is a new start, a new chapter, and I always been learn through this process. Thanks for that, and thanks for coming to Enlighten.
Thank you, Mônica. And last but not least, I welcome IALD professional member and CLD, Andreas Schulz. Andreas has over 30 years of lighting design experience. In 1991, he founded Licht und Licht in Bonn and Berlin simultaneously. Since then, the office has participated in over 800 projects throughout Europe and overseas. In addition to his professional practice, Andreas Schulz is the former director of the IALD, the founding professor for lighting design at the University in Hildesheim, a lighting and energy consultant for the German government, and a member of the Berlin Lighting Advisory Council. Andreas is also the chair of the IALD European Steering Committee.
Okay, hello to the Word of Light. I'm glad to be with you. Even that this is the first day of lockdown in Germany for the second time, but while you are listening to my small speech, maybe it's already over and hopefully history. Let's see. So when I've been asked about inspiration, I thought, did I ever recognize that I had inspiration? What was it all about? It's a little bit, I studied hardcore electrical engineering. I'm a high voltage engineer. So I turned 5 months of my life, physics and mathematics around, and there is not a lot of inspiration during that time because it's very ambitious to become an engineer, and you have a lot of other things in mind. And even that I have a huge sense for the beauty of life, light, art, architecture, and all these things. While I was studying, it was not really the time to, let's say, explore it beside of traveling in these days. But yeah, after I studied, I became a lighting designer. I worked at a small company, which was not a small company. It was Licht Design in Cologne. The owner was Hans Theodor von Malotki, a very flamboyant guy and very well known, and maybe one of the first lighting designers in Europe. And with my technical skills, he made me to become the one who is, let's say, fixing out all the problems which were related to, let's say, the design which was done in the company. So I was more or less that in these days already doing a hands-on job, and I was really desperately waiting to, let's say, unleash my creativity, which doesn't take place at that office. And I found my own company then one time, and we became successful. And okay, I didn't have a lot of experience, and we were then one time asked to do a lighting job for a museum of Richard Mayer. So I went to New York to see Richard Mayer. And before I went, I prepared myself. I was thinking about how to prepare myself because I'm not an architect, and how can I face such a person? So I studied his architecture. I went to see a museum he developed in the city of Frankfurt. I looked at it, I read some books, blah, 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 all these things. And one time I came to New York, and the thing which impressed me on his architecture was mostly the fact that he was using light in a, let's say, controlled way, because his architecture reacts on daylight, mostly daylight, but he doesn't treat a museum like it was treated in these days in general. So he allows daylight to penetrate the museum. I was very impressed by it because when I thought about or from my time when I was as a kid taken to museums, the museums were dark, smelly places, and the Maya museums, they were, let's say, open to the sky and had a lot of experience, and they were showing what daylight is able to do. It gives, let's say, a kind of information about space and time, and relates you to the outdoor environment. So I was quite impressed by Mayer's architecture, and I think that was one of the biggest inspiration I had as the young founder of Lichtkunstlicht. And so we were just 2 years old when I met him and we're talking about light. And I recognized, okay, now you learned something which you didn't have in mind when you started the profession. It was daylight. Daylight was, let's say, my source of inspiration. And later on, I met another guy once again in my life, because when I was working as an employee, I did a museum in the city of Bonn, which is called the Kunstmuseum of the city of Bonn, and the architect was Axel Schulz, a very famous German architect. And as an employee, I was working, let's say, to execute what others have designed years before. So I came in the last phase and I recognized a lot of things, but I didn't, let's say, digest them. And but we became kind of friends. And when I, let's say, found my own company, I introduced myself to him and said, here I am. If you one time looking for a lighting designer, I'm available. And one time I received a call by him and he said, okay, we are doing a huge competition for the most important building in the city of, in Germany at all, because when we moved from Bonn to Berlin, when we changed our capital, there were a lot of building needed, and it was the Chancellery where today Miss Merkel is doing their politics from, or her politics from. And so that building was kind of a competition. I consulted him and he won the competition and we became the lighting designer. And very, very funny, very, very funny. The main idea or the blueprint for the lighting design of that building is mostly done by a drawing which was done by the famous architect Mr. Schinkel, 1815, and Mr. Schinkel was a genius. He was, all, beside of being a good architect or the most influential architect in 1800, he was a good painter as well. And so he developed a stage design for Mozart's Magic Flute, the appearance of the princess. And that picture is a blueprint for the lighting design of the Chancellery. And knowing that I can follow, let's say, a very schematic picture and taking the poetry of that picture, made me one time thinking backwards how I did get back to that idea, that is a huge inspiration working together with an architect who's using drawing a painting from 1815 for the blueprint of his building and even the lighting design. And it was quite interesting because what Schulz drives his architecture most was the impact of daylight. So it was partially a high penetration of daylight. At the same time, at nighttime, a lack of any light. So it doesn't need, or he developed the idea together with us that the artificial light source is not related, or the artificial light doesn't need to be related to artificial light. And that is the second big influence in my, let's say, career and life, that the independency of artificial light compared to daylight is quite important from my point of view, and most of the works we are doing, that kind of, let's say, independency of the both light sources could live in a perfect coexistence, and maybe these two experiences, on one hand, Richard Mayer's architecture built on daylight, and Axel Schulz's, let's say, treatment of daylight and artificial light in a kind of scenographic and dramatic way even, are my main drivers. And if you ask me today if there's any change, no, I'm becoming more radical, getting older, so I'm more strong following these ideas. If you see our last projects, you immediately can see that they are, let's say, quite polarizing, because they are using that kind of tool, that the impact of artificial light could be very different to daylight, but all our projects are, let's say, mainly driven by the impact of daylight at the first time, and then the artificial light is set up on that. These are my, let's say, sources of inspiration from the early stage of it. There are, let's say, 1,000 others as well, but when I've been asked by IALD to think about it, I think these two architects, they mainly influenced my way of thinking about artificial and mostly daylight, because daylight is still, let's say, the main light source for us when it comes to architecture. Even if we are doing a park, no? Even if we are doing an outdoor park and somebody asks us for the artificial light of a park, we look at the park at first at daylight and then we try to interpret it in a different way at nighttime. So this is what I can tell you about my inspirational source, and I think it doesn't change so much. It even became stronger, or it's a price you have to pay when you become older, no? So it's a little bit, you get more harsh with it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. I've really enjoyed listening to all of these leading designers on what inspires them and what continues to inspire them to create beautiful works that advance our profession. So thank you, Gustavo, Mônica, and Andreas. Now, on to prizes. We have great prizes to give away to those who participated. And let's start with the scavenger hunt. Let's draw for the 3 Amazon gift cards for 40, 60, and 80 euros. And I have here the names. So I want to congratulate to Esther Licht, Ellen Gulmi, and Ivan Torres for winning the 40 euros gift cards. They are not sharing those 40 euros. They are telling me that each of you will get one. So sorry for the pronunciation, and congratulations to the 3 of you. Also, congratulations to Ruth Ong for winning the 60 euros gift card. And finally, in this category, congratulations to Katia Colovea for winning the 80 euros gift card. Your gift cards will be sent to you after the show. And we have several special drawings, and there is one drawing for the Lighting Crosstalk participants. This is one Amazon gift card valued at 75 euros. And the winner for this gift card is Oniana Selesova. So congratulations to you, Oniana. And finally, we have the grand prize drawing. That is one registration for an enlightening conference. And I want to congratulate Micaela Mesavilla for winning this great pass. So congratulations, Micaela. Well, speaking of prizes, we have a reminder here to our awards. The IALD International Lighting Design Awards submission period has been extended to the 30th of November. So there is still time for you to submit. Okay, now our event has come to a close, and I hope you enjoyed this past 2 days learning, connecting, and being inspired by so many creative and knowledgeable lighting designers. And we couldn't have done this without you. So thanks to every one of you for taking time out of your schedule to participate and being so active in the coffee and conversations and the breaks. Please, everyone, turn on your camera so we can see you one last time before we say goodbye. I ask you, everyone, to turn on your cameras. Let me say I enjoyed meeting you all, and I really look forward to when we can all meet again in person. Thank you. Tak. Vielen Dank. Gracias. Grazie, merci. Que estén muy bien. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.